Mary, welcome to Indian Link.
Thank you very much for having me.
Ellerston India Fund. What is so exciting about a fund which invests in India from Australia?
Yeah, so it's a great question. I think the most important thing is that India is a high growth economy and it offers investors exposure to high growth companies. So Australia, as you know, is growing at less than 2%, and a lot of the companies here are growing at very low levels of earnings growth. India is totally the opposite. The economy is growing fast, the companies that are listed there are growing fast, so it's very exciting for investors to be able to access that sort of growth. Secondly, India is getting too big to ignore. I've been investing in India for over 17 years.
17 years?
17 years, yeah. I've gone to India at least once for all those years.
Right.
And the economy and the stock market certainly has changed a lot over that time. And back in early 2000s when I started investing in India, it wasn't too big to ignore. A lot of people didn't have India in their portfolios and that was okay for their performance. But most analyses show that by 2030, India is going to be the third largest economy in the world after China and the US. So India is getting too big to ignore and not to have in your portfolio.
But then I'm sitting here in Australia, I'm in Sydney. How do I actually get access to what companies in India? Do I, through you, buy shares in those companies, or what exactly happens?
So the Ellerston India Fund was set up, one of the reasons we started it was because it's very difficult for investors who are in Australia to access India directly. It's not like China where you can buy some ADRs or other markets like that. And so we set up the India Fund, and you would subscribe to units of our fund. It's an unlisted trust, and then we buy the shares in India.
You buy the shares?
Yes.
What kind of shares do you buy?
So we like high quality, high growth companies in India.
Like which ones?
So Reliance is the biggest,
Okay.
Reliance Industries
Yes.
is the biggest stock in our portfolio. It's around 15% of our portfolio, so we make very big bets on stocks that we like. And Reliance, it's a $200 billion market cap
Is that
company
right?
now.
Right,
Yes.
right.
And a lot of people say, wow, I didn't know there were any companies in India that were that big, but we own Reliance and TCS and Infosys, ICICI Bank, HDFC Bank, a lot of these stocks that are very well known. That's the bulk of our portfolio. We also own some stocks which are maybe less well known as stocks, although a lot of people would recognize them as consumer goods.
So brand names,
Brand names,
like
exactly.
which ones?
So PVR is a stock which has done very well for us,
Right,
the movie
right.
theater.
Yes, yes.
And I was in India a few months ago, and I was there in Pune over a weekend. So I just went to a shopping mall, and there were so many people at the PVR theater.
But what's exciting about the theater company, like in today's world of Netflix and streaming and other things, why would you invest in a theater?
Yeah, that's a great question, because in India, their rollout is still very impressive. The penetration of movie theaters in India is much lower than in other countries. And so even with the onslaught of Netflix, there's still a very long runway for theater companies. And as you know, India is unique in the world because of the Bollywood influence. And so theaters in India thus far has been a very good investment for us.
Have you seen any Bollywood movies?
I have.
Right.
Yes, I like them. And
In the PVR theaters?
Not in the PVR theater. But another company which sort of fits in that category is Britannia.
So you're watching the movie and having Britannia
and eating biscuits at the same time.
Right.
Yes.
I like that, yes.
So a lot of people love Britannia biscuits, but they don't know that it's actually a very good performing stock, and they have high growth and they have very impressive management. So those are kind of some of the less well-known stocks that we own in the portfolio.
Very in terms of, so I can buy units in the Ellerston India Fund, and you in turn will buy, using your management and expertise, shares in the Indian stock market.
Yes, directly in Indian companies. So we
Fair
don't
enough.
buy. We're not an ETF. We don't just buy the Nifty
But you
50
buy the direct shares.
Yeah, direct shares.
What kind of returns have you had?
So we've been very pleased with the returns in the Ellerston India Fund since inception. In the last 12 months, we're up 21.7%. So
Wow.
that's a very good return, especially compared to what investors are getting in Australia. And on a per annum basis, so each year since inception, we've had almost 9% returns. And that's in Aussie dollar terms, so that includes any changes in the Indian rupee. And we expect that those returns can be consistent going forward.
So other than me, a small investor, who else should have India in the portfolios?
So we are seeing a lot of investment, or a lot of interest across the board for investing in India. As you know, even at the government level, Scott Morrison is trying to get Australian businesses to invest in India. We are seeing some of the superannuation funds or just starting to look at India. I know Aussie Super has done an investment in the National Infrastructure Fund of India. So we're seeing on the retail side, a lot of investors have been invested in China for many years now, and they realize what I mentioned before, that India is this big up-and-coming economy and they have no exposure at all. So we're getting a lot of inbound inquiries saying, how can I get exposure to India? And that's why we started the Ellerston India Fund.
But it's still open to the normal person on the street in case they look at India as a part of their portfolio.
Yes, absolutely. That's why the Ellerston India Fund was designed for those
What's
sorts
the
of
minimum
investors.
investment?
I think it's $10,000. So it's not a huge amount.
Right.
We think that everybody should have a little bit of India in their portfolio, and so we've designed the minimum to be consistent with that.
And how do we get access to the paperwork for all this?
Yeah, so if you go to our website, it's ellerstoncapital.com, and there's a tab on there for the India Fund, and it has all the documentation, the PDS and our monthly newsletters. We do spend a lot of time on the ground. Me and my team spend a third of the year on the ground in India and Asia. Whenever we get back, we do an on-the-ground piece. So there's a lot of information, and the PDS is available on our website.
Fantastic. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.